You Can't Make This Shit Up with Paul Elam and Tom Golden. Episode 12, Sad but True. Hello, everyone. We're ready for another exciting episode of You Cannot Make This Shit Up. And I mean to tell you, you cannot make this shit up. I'm here with Mr. Paul Elam.
It's been too long, Tom Golden.
An ear for men and a voice for men. And I'm Tom Golden from MenAreGood. And it has been too long. You know, we need to do these more often, Paul.
Yeah, we do. We've been busy with a lot of stuff lately, but
we've been kind of busy.
Yeah, but we do need to get back to doing this, and I'm committed to doing that very thing.
And it's just too much fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's just too much fun.
It's sometimes also sad at times.
Man, we got 4 burners today.
Shoot, buddy, do we ever.
They're just crazy, crazy things. And the first one, I saw it, and I was thinking, Paul, this is like other ones we've had before, but there's a different twist to it. So let me read you the title. The title is Woman Who Shot Man Given Probation After Pattern of Domestic Abuse Revealed. In other words, she shot her husband, but that's okay since it turns out he was an abuser, Paul. He was an abuser.
Let me get something right. It was after she shot him, then they found there was a pattern of domestic abuse in that relationship.
Yes,
the
exactly.
Shooting wasn't part of a pattern of domestic abuse.
Yeah, who was the abuser here, eh?
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. And the other thing is this couple had been together for 15 years, had 3 children.
Oh, man.
So anyway, here's the first part. Catherine Hoffman was sentenced to 3 years probation after withdrawing a not guilty plea on March 11th and taking a guilty plea for 2 criminal counts, including an amended charge of first-degree assault under extreme emotional disturbance and endangering the welfare of a minor. And let me tell you, those charges are tiny compared with what this woman did. She had the previous charges of adult kidnapping and criminal intent to commit murder were dismissed. What? I mean, what she did was absolutely insane. She shot this guy twice. She shot him twice. And then she basically kidnapped him and locked him in his car. It was a truck, actually, but it was like to die, She thought he was going to die. Weird. So Hoffman has strong family support, the document reads. She also has a network of friends who intend to assist her on her path as she moves forward in life. Several of those friends have observed the evidence of long-term abuse experienced by Mrs. Hoffman at the hands of Omari McFarland. So people had seen that he was an abuser, right?
Oh, I'm sure they saw it very clearly.
And You Can't Make This Shit Up is about her being let off for basically attempted murder. It's amazing the guy survived. But here's the twist on this one, Paul. Usually you hear nothing from the person who was abused basically by this woman. You don't hear anything. But I searched on the guy's name because he's got a strange last name. I found him. And there's a 40-minute interview where he discusses exactly what happened from his perspective.
Link?
No, there'll be a link below for both the article about what she did from the blue pill perspective and his perspective on what happened to him. And the two are very, very different. And I'm not saying this guy's completely honest and it's completely true. But if half of what this guy says is true, it's like a mind blower. I mean, listen to what he said. She told him, and in fact, she told him multiple times during their marriage, I could get away with killing you if I wanted to. And he always thought she was joking. And then he realizes now, holy shit, she wasn't joking. I mean, the guy in some ways portrays himself as being sort of naive and not realizing what she was up to. In fact, when she first shot him, he says, he was lying in bed and he felt this pain in his head. She shot him in the fucking head, right? He feels this pain in the head and he gets up and he screams. He says, what? And he thought the ceiling fan had fallen and hit him in the head. So he calls out her name and she comes and they have this interaction back and forth, about this and that and the other. And he says, look, something's wrong. I'm bleeding. And apparently she shot him again, but he didn't realize it. She came behind him somehow and shot him in the chest. He doesn't even know how many times she shot him then. And it's like, the guy, I think he was out of it. I think he was asleep, and he may have been drunk. I mean, who knows what. But he was literally out of it. And she knew what she was doing. So he says, look, call the ambulance. Call the ambulance. I need some help. So she makes like she's calling the ambulance. She doesn't call. She just lets him sit there. 30 minutes. And about 30 minutes later, he says, look, I got to get someplace. So he goes out on the porch. As far as he could get was the front porch. He goes out on the front porch, and he looks across. There's a neighbor out there. And he tries to yell, but he can't yell because he's just weak as shit. He's losing all this blood, So he tries to yell at her, and she goes like that, shut up. And she went over and talked to the neighbor because he was yelling, call an ambulance, call an ambulance. She went over and obviously told her, no, don't call anybody. Don't call anybody. She was just going to wait for him to die. So finally the guy says, look, I've got to get to the hospital. Get me to the hospital. Get my truck. And so she gets the truck. He backs up to where he is because he can hardly move a step or two. He gets into the seat in the truck, and off they go. Well, about 3/4 of the way to the hospital, before they get to the hospital, she starts braking, accelerating, which jostled him back and forth, which obviously was painful for him. And he couldn't figure out what she was doing. And he knows now that what she was doing was she was trying to not get to the hospital. She didn't want to get there because by the time she finally got to the hospital, he said, good, pull up there and get me out of here. No, she wouldn't do it. She pulls out of the hospital and goes someplace else about a minute away from the hospital and pulls over to the side of the road. And that's when he tries to get out of the truck. He can't get out of the truck, so he lunges back in because that's all he could do. She shoots him again in the head, through the neck, out through the mouth, breaking all of his teeth and cutting him severely. So
that is a third shot?
Yes, apparently. Well, it's at least 2, but maybe 3. And then he goes to, he says, obviously something's wrong here. At that point, he thought something's exploding in my brain. He still didn't know what was happening. But he got up to the door of the place that they were next to, because about a mile or a minute away from the hospital was this residential neighborhood. And he banged on the door. He kicked it with his foot. And he said the woman came to the door and he said, God, please help me. And she did. And she got her husband, and they helped the guy, and they got him to the hospital. They called the ambulance. He said the ambulance came within, it seemed like 30 seconds. The ambulance was there, and they took good care of the guy, But what a different story, eh?
How many premeditated acts is that?
Yeah, really, exactly.
To go out and tell the neighbor, don't call for help, to lock him in a vehicle, to take him away from the hospital.
The guy's, he's on the porch thinking he's dying. He says, look, will you record me so I can tell the people I love that I love them, before I die? She says, okay. And she starts recording for him, right? The police have this recording. And a part of what the recording shows is she says, don't tell them I shot you. In the recording.
So evidence of guilt over and over again.
But she is expecting him to do what she says. I mean, this is not an abuser.
But just how much examination of evidence, what did they go through, Tom, on this to make the determination that she only needed probation?
Well, he was an abuser. It's the whole gynocentric bullshit that's infuriating. I mean, this guy may not be telling the truth. He may very well be an abuser.
Doesn't matter.
To me, it doesn't matter one bit after what she did. What she did is criminal, and she needs to be in jail. Period.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't care. Your answer to domestic violence, women, if your husband's abusive, go get a suitcase, not a handgun, and get out. The same goes for guys. You don't get the right to go in and while somebody's sleeping and put one behind the left ear because they abused you 6 weeks ago or whatever. This is insane.
It is.
And it is not just our gynocentrism, but this is also feminist influence too.
Yes.
You've got,
disposable.
who was that ignorant cunt up in Canada that insisted that it was perfectly acceptable for women to murder husbands if they had a history of any kind of,
Right,
that they almost had
exactly.
a moral obligation to.
It's been enshrined in law.
Sure.
You know, that you can do that if you're being abused. And in my mind, if she shot him, he would have every right to turn around and shoot her back, right?
I would think so. I would certainly, regardless of what the law says, if somebody's shooting at you, kill them.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really have much of a choice, but this guy apparently was disoriented.
Yes.
Obviously, he didn't expect to be shot in the head when he laid down to go to sleep. He thought something had fallen on him, and he was disoriented after that. And he was still, you could tell he was disoriented because he was still turning to her for help.
Yes.
Exactly. And how callous and calculated do you have to be? Because I could understand it, all right, not understand, and certainly not excuse, but we do know that people sometimes in a moment of passion act irrationally. But this goes way past this. This isn't just a momentary act of being feeling victimized and acting passionately. This carried on through one decision after another, as she intended to let him bleed out.
Cold-blooded and ruthless. Ruthless, man. Let the guy, she was just sitting there talking to him. She said, I'll get you a towel to hold the blood, you know? And she just leaves him sitting there on the porch. I mean, it's just, sorry guys, this was a heartbreaking story, but the guy lived. He lived. And he lived to see his wife get off from that on probation.
And wasn't there also a racial component to this, Tom?
Yeah.
What was it that she
he's
said?
a black man and she's a white woman. Did I not read that little thing that
No.
Oh gosh, I got to read that because this is what she told him. I'm a pretty little white girl and you're a big old mean black guy, said McFarland, explaining what Hoffman had allegedly told him. All I got to do is take your nails and scratch under my skin and just say you did this. Yeah, he's more believable in my mind than she is if he said something like that. And that sounds exactly like what she might say.
Boy.
Yeah, crazy.
What a scumbag.
You can't make this shit up, Paul.
And she shouldn't be on probation. She should, by all rights, be 6 feet under, but is certainly at least under the jail. This is incredible.
She should be in jail.
Absolutely.
But that's what happens when you hear the other side of the story, you know, because almost always the press is only going to give you the woman's side. They almost never give you the man's side. So God bless this guy for standing up and saying what he thinks is right, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if he'll ever get any justice, but I doubt it.
At least he's alive.
At least he's alive and has an opportunity to make better choices.
And, you know, when you listen to that interview of him, he seems like a pretty nice guy. Not that abusers can't seem like nice guys, but listen to it yourself and you make your own decision. You know, the guy.
I'll maintain, I don't care if this guy was an abuser or not. She had better options than shooting him and trying to kill him. She had
so many options.
All the options in the world.
$1 billion.
People that are enabling her bullshit, her claims of victimhood.
Yeah.
They would have enabled her to get out of there. They would have enabled a million other things to throw him in jail on the allegation that he abused her. Any number of options were present for her. She chose to try to kill.
Yep, she did. Oh, well, on that happy note.
On that happy note, we're all full of happy stories. Speaking of happy stories, speaking of happy stories, there's this guy in England with 2 grown children, 19 and 23 years old, and he gets diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. And one of the things that they happen to know about cystic fibrosis is that if you're a male with this disease, you are also infertile. And that could present a sort of, kind of moment in a person's life, given they've just, raised 2 children to adulthood. And so he apparently turned to his wife and said, well, there's some questions here about paternity. And lo and behold, he got it confirmed, not his children. She had cheated on him and allowed him to she cuckolded him and allowed him to raise two children that were not his from birth to adulthood. Now, one, I can't imagine just the emotional devastation. How do you ever deal with that? You've got two kids that you've raised as yours, that you believe are yours, that you've invested your whole life in, and all of a sudden it's all a lie. I mean, Tom, you specialize in helping with grief. Doesn't that sort of qualify for some major league, hard to resolve grief?
Huge. The betrayal is just a huge kind of grief, that takes years really to work through.
And you've got these children that you love completely, and every time you look at them, it's like a knife in your heart.
Yes. She betrayed you. She lied to you. And here's again, it's a guy who really thought they had a good relationship. He thought that they loved each other and that everything was fine. And whammo, it's like, what?
And whammo, oops, it ain't you, dude. And so he takes an unusual route. He sues her.
Yeah.
You more power to you, bud. He sues her, and apparently his case is strong enough, and maybe we'd like to think the law has progressed enough that a man could seek justice for this. But sure enough, he got her to settle before the court was resolved, before it was resolved by a court.
Right.
Got her to settle for £250,000, which is no small amount of money. And at the same time, you got to figure he invested certainly over the course of the birth to adulthood for two children. He invested a lot more than that in their upbringing, and it couldn't begin to repair the damage. I mean, he could have gotten 2.5 million pounds, and the grief, the almost inconsolable kind of grief, would still be there for this guy. But he did get a settlement, and of course, probably with the help of mother, at least the son has rejected him now and is mad because he sued the boy's mother.
Yeah, he doesn't get it.
Now, folks, if you want to know why MGTOW rolled their eyes every time they see a guy say, "Oh, I can't wait to get married and have children."
There you go.
And the MGTOW guys just shake their head and say, "You poor fool."
Yeah.
And you can't blame them.
You cannot blame them.
You absolutely can't blame them. But this is where we've come to in this society. Look, there isn't much else to say about this story. It's a disgraceful betrayal. It's one of the most horrible things in the world. It's much worse than being physically violent with somebody. This kind of abuse of trust, abuse of a relationship is much, much worse than physical or other forms of psychological, emotional abuse. It is absolutely a huge dagger in the back and twisted in ways that most of us couldn't comprehend being hurt. But let this be a lesson for anything else that, if you want to complain about MGTOW and saying that these guys have it wrong, well, no, they don't. They don't have it wrong. Because most of the time there's no justice for this. They estimate, and I will provide a link for this. The New York Times came out with an article that fully 30% of men who suspect there's something wrong and check for paternity in their marriages turn out not to be the father. 30%, and that's just the guys who check.
Yep.
This is not a small odds game, guys. You can very easily end up cuckolded in marriage. And if you don't take steps to make sure that children use, I don't care how much you love your wife, or you say, "Oh, no, Cupcake would never do that to me." Get a DNA test. You have a baby, don't say anything to the mother, just go get the damn test. You can do it as a father and find out, because we're talking about the next 18 to 21 years of your life that you're going to spend investing everything you have as a man, your heart, your soul, everything into taking care of children and all your money. And there's apparently a 3 in 10 chance that you're going to be paying for the pool boy's kid.
Oh,
not good.
Yeah, that's not good at all.
But that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
So I think that's enough for me of that story. I mean, these are, we say you can't make this shit up, but it happens every day.
It does. And it hurts. And the one thing I would say about that story too, Paul, is that notice that when the guy retaliated and stood up for what he thought was right, he got shit for it.
Yeah, sure.
He got shit for it.
His
Whereas
kids
if the
will
woman
turn
stands
on
up for what she thinks is right, she's going to be applauded. Oh, she's a strong woman.
Excuse me. His not kids have turned on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, they'll figure out a way to call her a hero.
Yeah. Crazy.
Well, let's take a moment. We're at the halfway point of discussing these stories. Time out for a moment. Tom and I have a couple of announcements we want to talk about. Actually, all kinds of stuff going on. One, want to remind everybody, links below, that you can see Tom and I both at the International Conference on Men's Issues in just a couple of months coming up in Chicago, Illinois, August the, what dates is it? 16th, 17th, and 18th?
Something like that.
Go to icmi.info, link below, and find out the dates. Janice Fiamengo will be there, Karen Strong, Allison Tiemann, lots and lots of other people. Sargon of Akkad is going to be there. Count Dankula is going to be there. I mean, there is going to be a veritable who's who of free speech advocates and men's issues specialists there.
Yes.
Ought to be a great convention. So if you've ever wanted to meet Sargon or Count Dankula or me or Tom or Janice or any of these other people, get your tickets and appear, son. Appear.
Come on in.
Team.
Should be fun.
Also, we have a rather special thing, and most of you who watch this channel have also seen the videos that Tom and I do with Janice Fiamengo called Regarding Men. We have developed, and we are just preparing to launch, the Regarding Men mail list. And the reason we've done that, not to be redundant, because I mentioned this in another recording today, but the reason that we've done this is because we're concerned about censorship. There is all kinds of people being deplatformed. It seems to be an escalating problem right now. I know Facebook just did a major purge. YouTube has banned people. Patreon has banned people. Twitter, of course, goes crazy banning people. We don't want this message to be subject to being silenced by the social media mobs. So we have had tech people from the ground up build us a good solid mailing list that we are about to launch. It's called the Regarding Men mailing list. And you'll be getting, it'll give you an option, for instance, to get notifications. A lot of you complain in the comments, why am I not getting notifications? Even though I subscribed and rang the bell, I'm still not getting notifications. If you subscribe and choose that option for whatever, any of our channels, you'll get notifications when our videos come out every time. You'll also get links to any special events that we're doing, any other discussions that we're having, and some of our written material about men's issues. So look forward to that coming along. Tom, you want to add anything to that?
No, man, summed it up good.
Okay. And let's see, what else do we have coming up?
Red pill relationships.
Yes, we do. Folks, we were just talking about the greatness of MGTOW, and Tom and I are both big supporters of MGTOW. We believe in that very strongly, that it's a great way to go. We also are realists, and we happen to know, both of us, that most men are going to be involved with women on one level or another. They may not get married, but they're going to have girlfriends. They may not cohabitate, but they're going to have sex. Men are sort of wired to get connected to women and vice versa, and we recognize that most men are going to do this. So we have started a series that is patron and subscribe star only. We have done, how many have we done so far?
We've done 4 so far. We do 1 a week.
Yeah, we do 1 a week. They come out on the Patreon, links below, at the subscribe star, link below. You'll find to this stuff. And we are having some great discussions about how to take red pill wisdom into relationships. And no, for the MGTOW among you, we are not recommending marriage. We are not recommending any legal vulnerability whatsoever. We're simply addressing the fact that most men are going to become involved with women, and that if you're going to be involved with women, you're going to need some red pill skills. That's all there is to it.
Yes.
And we talk about that at length, taking on subjects like sexual blackmail, nagging, shit tests we just did, and on down the line to all the kind of things that actually men have to contend with in relationships, which makes it a lot different than most relationship advice, because most of the garbage you get will be from people like John Gray and Dr. Phil, who tell you how to bow and scrape and kiss women's ass in order to get along. This isn't about that at all.
Yep.
And if you know Tom or me, either one, you know that we're not going to be passing off any of that bullshit.
Yeah, and we try and give some practical things you can do with each one, you know, because it takes practice. It really does take practice.
And finally, in conjunction, so sign up, come join us for Red Pill Relationships. We think you'll like it. And one other thing on the tail end of that, it looks like right about mid-June, my new book, Men, Women, Relationships, is going to be released. It'll be out on ebook and paperback. And of course, I invite all of you to check that out. It is more of the very kind of discussions that Tom and I are having on our Red Pill Relationship series. And it's not about pleasing women. As a matter of fact, it's about displeasing them in a lot of ways.
Yes.
But it's also about holding your own with them,
Right.
not even tolerating shit tests, much less trying to pass them.
Yeah.
If you like my other written material, you'll probably like this book.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
And look for that between the middle of June and the end of June.
Indeed.
And so, have we plugged enough, Tom?
I think that's plenty of plugs, man.
We're done plugging. Let's get
go
on with
to you can't make this shit up.
And I think it is your turn.
Is it my turn?
It is your turn.
Well, this one's crazy, Paul. You really can't make this shit up. Here's the title. Texas anti-masturbation bill moves loser to becoming law. Oh, I'm sorry. It moves closer to becoming law. The hell am I reading?
The therapist in you saw the word closure.
Yeah, when I pasted it in, it didn't work. Texas anti-masturbation bill moves closer to becoming law. What? All right, here's what they say. A bill that would see Texas men fined $100 for masturbating has taken a step closer to becoming law after it received its first reading in the state House of Representatives. Huh? You can't make this shit up. Under Section 173 of House Bill 4260, the Man's Right to Know Act, Texas men would be only allowed to masturbate under supervision inside approved healthcare and medical facilities. Any unregulated masturbatory emissions outside of a woman's vagina or created outside of a health or medical facility will be charged $100 civil penalty for each emission and will be considered an act against an unborn child and failing to preserve the sanctity of life. That's what the bill says.
I smelled there's a string attached to this somewhere. There's a wait a minute. What is the motivation behind this? Obviously,
the string that's behind it is the woman who put the bill together was doing it as satire.
And for what reason?
She was pissed off about people trying to control women's bodies with saying they couldn't have abortions whenever they wanted. Even after 9 months, they couldn't have abortions. It's like, well, I'll show them. We'll show men what it's like to not be able to control your own body.
Oh,
we'll keep
satire because beating off is the same thing as killing a baby.
Exactly, Paul. You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, it's like, this woman is stupid. You know, what does this have to do with abortion? It's a completely different situation altogether.
Sometimes, Tom, my position on abortion is retroactive. I think in her case, we should consider that.
I hadn't thought about that before, Paul. But
that's just a joke, folks.
That's an interesting strategy.
But I'm telling you, well, you know something, if I really did believe in retroactive abortion, it wouldn't make me too much different than the average Democrat right now.
Yes,
all the I mean, and here we are. She's making a case of fining men $100 for jerking off to make the case that women should be allowed to kill a baby that's 9 months old in a failed abortion where the damn thing was stubborn and was born alive anyway, and they didn't manage to kill it before it came out. Look, I'm pissed about this stuff. You can make arguments either way on the abortion case. You really can.
Yeah.
I have my feelings that are very strong in one way, but I can entertain arguments. But we've gotten to the point now where we're getting into 1936 Berlin and the Jews in the way that we're regarding unborn children.
Yes.
It's terrible.
Yes. It's crazy. And I was thinking some male representative should do his own bill for her benefit and for others. And the bill should say, only females or only males can be sheltered from domestic violence problems until the shelters are able to hold both males and females. Or maybe only females can be used in the front lines if there is a wartime, or SWAT teams, or rescue teams, until their deaths mount up to an equal amount that men have died for 100 years, you know?
I want to add go ahead.
Only men can have circumcision be illegal. For women, for a while, that's too bad. They just, too bad, so sad. They get circumcised.
I think we should add a $500 surcharge, a tax to vibrators until women demonstrate proficiency at making sandwiches.
We've got all kinds of ideas about bills.
Yes, and we want to do some satire. Let's do some satire. How about you don't get to masturbate or have sex until half of the body bags coming back from the Middle East are filled with women.
That's the idea.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, that's the idea. Crazy. You can't make this shit up, Paul.
And even in Texas, I mean, this is so embarrassing. It makes me almost glad I moved. Is that even in Texas, there are women and men walking around the state legislature right now, patting this fucking idiot on the back as though she did something ingenious.
I know.
And what she's doing, she's trivializing the life of unborn children to a point that it's disgraceful.
Yeah, I agree.
Screw this. Screw her. Oh, well, can we quit talking about this bitch now?
Yeah, man. What's next?
What's next? We got our final story. And this one, speaking of bitches, now you get a twofer.
Oh, boy.
These women were at a pizzeria in New York City, a mother and daughter team. Mm-hmm. And they had just sold a house and they were looking to make a down payment on another house. They had all their stacks of paperwork with them, doing all their business. And they looked up on the walls and lo and behold, I mean, I have to admit, I do feel for them. This must have been very traumatic, Tom.
Oh, yeah.
They noticed that of all the celebrity famous people that had eaten pizza in this pizzeria, they had their pictures up on the wall. Sadly, not very many of them were women.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. I kind of like, I thought, well, whatever they do at this point, if they shot people, it would probably be all right because, it's just unfair. But so they called the waiter on because obviously the waiter in every restaurant is responsible for everything that's going on.
Yes.
There. And they point out to the waiter, well, how come there's not very many women on the walls here? And now I would have been prone to rip out the nearest centerfold and stick it up on the wall above their booth and say, there you go. But what the guy said was, well, maybe not very many women eat pizza. And I mean, what was he supposed to fucking say?
Really? I mean, that's a good response.
Yeah, there's not very many pictures of women on the wall. That's very true. What do you want me to do?
Good
you want
response.
To cookie? But anyway, they left the restaurant very, very dissatisfied
Oh,
with his answer. That fell short entirely.
they were pissed.
Instead of leaving him a tip, they left a note that says, apparently women don't tip either.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, they really got him. And I'm sure his life was ruined about that. But you know what else? They also left something else at the table.
What'd they leave, Paul?
A cashier's check for $400,000+. That was from the sale of their last home.
Yeah?
And they just left it laying there in an envelope.
Yeah, just for him. That was the tip.
That was Lord, if it wasn't made out to somebody, he might have made that argument. But
Thank you.
instead, he did what most men would do in this situation.
Yeah.
He looked past the way that they had treated him. They looked past the fact that, waiters don't make much money. What they get in tips is important to them. And of course, these two bitches stiffed him on that to make their little feminist point, not because they're cheap bitches, but there was a lesson to be taught here. And so the guy tracks them down and finds them and gets their cashier's check. Now, they could have eventually, if it had been destroyed, they could have eventually gotten it replaced by the bank, but the process takes like 3 months.
And it probably cost something too.
Yeah, and probably cost them some real money to get that done.
Yeah.
The guy saved them a nightmare of an ordeal over this check after they stiffed him on the tip. I don't know, Tom, to be honest with you, I might have looked at that check and said, oh, well, just cleaning up the table here. What do I know? I'm just a dumb waiter that doesn't know why there's not pictures of women on the wall. I would have been tempted. I'd like to think that I would have, been a big enough human being to get them their check anyway, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, there is such thing as divine justice, eh?
Well, there is. And again, so part of me wants to say, hey, this guy was pretty cool. He took it in stride. He didn't take it too personally. I'm sure those weren't the only people who ever stiffed him on a tip. And he dealt with it, and he was big about it.
Yeah.
And part of me wants to say, no, that's just, they deserve a headache. and if I could deliver it, I'd do it. So I don't know. What would you do, Tom?
I'd give her the check back.
Yeah.
I'd do it, but I'd be pissed off that I was doing it, because part of me would like to rip the fucking thing up. But yeah, I'd give it back to him.
Yeah, I would have handed it to him. I think I would have done it, and I would have said, this would have looked pretty good on the wall. What do you think? But they wouldn't have gotten the joke.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And anyway, that is our fourth and final story of You Can't Make This Shit Up. So I don't know which is more amazing about that one, that they were so pissy and entitled that they made a scene to a waiter about pictures of women on the wall of a pizzeria, or that they left the check behind, or that he found them and gave it. I mean, there's a lot of things you can't make up in that.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess you get to take your pick.
You take your pick. Strange story.
It is, but it's true. Links below to
Yes,
all this
indeed.
shit you cannot make up.
Oh yeah. So are we finished?
I think we're done.
I think we're done. So let's do the next one a little bit sooner than a month, eh?
Yes. We need to
do our
get back
best.
on the schedule. We need to check in with you guys. I know that some of you really prefer a program with just men on it, and we're here to do that.
And we've been kind of busy with the red pill relationships and with the regarding men stuff. So we'll try and do these ASAP.
In the meantime, there's something about men that I think needs to be said.
Oh, men are good.
As are you.
Yes, indeed.
Take care, guys. We'll see
All
you.
right, we'll see you. See if I can turn the fucking thing off.
Turn the fucking thing off, Tom.
Yeah, baby.